They called me weak. Invisible. The kind of nurse who'd faint at the sight of blood. I let them believe it. I needed them to believe it. Because if they knew the truth, if they knew what I really was, I'd never escape my past. My name is Amara Cole. I'm 27 years old. I work the night shift at County General Hospital in Detroit, Michigan. And for 3 months, I've been the joke of the emergency department. The novice nurse who trembles when inserting IVs. The woman who hides during trauma cases. The one who eats lunch alone in her beat-up Toyota in the parking garage. But tonight, everything changed. Tonight, a 2.10-meter giant high on PCP stormed into my ER, ready to kill. And I dropped him with one strike. Now they're asking questions. Now they want to know who I really am. And I don't know if I can keep lying. Because the truth is, I'm not just a nurse. I'm Phantom. Former Special Operations. And the skills I buried 3 years ago just came roaring back. It started like any other Friday night in Detroit. Gunshot wounds. Overdoses. Car accidents. The usual carnage that floods County General's emergency department between midnight and dawn. I was restocking supply cabinets in Trauma Bay 3, trying to stay invisible, when I heard Dr. Richard Brennan's voice cut through the chaos. Cole. Move faster. We've got a multi-vehicle pileup coming in. I need those bays prepped 5 minutes ago. I nodded, keeping my eyes down. Yes, Doctor. Brennan was 51, silver-haired, and possessed the kind of arrogance that only comes from 20 years of being the smartest person in every room. He treated me like I was made of glass. Fragile. Useless. Honestly, I don't know why they hired you, he muttered to nurse practitioner Janet as I passed. She can barely handle a nosebleed. If a real emergency happens, she'll be dead weight. I pretended not to hear. I'd gotten good at that. At 2:34 a.m., the ambulance bay doors exploded open. 2 paramedics burst in, struggling to control a stretcher. But the man on it wasn't lying down. He was standing. And he was massive. Derek, the Hammer Vaughan. 2.10 meters tall. 160 kilograms of solid muscle, covered in prison tattoos and rage. His eyes were wild, pupils dilated to black saucers. PCP and methamphetamine, I recognized immediately. The most dangerous combination. He attacked 3 people at a bar on 8 Mile. One paramedic shouted, blood streaming from his broken nose. We need to sedate him now. Dr. Brennan stepped forward, projecting authority. Security. Get the restraints. Prepare 10 milligrams Haldol, 2 milligrams Ativan. Derek didn't wait. He ripped the stretcher straps apart with his bare hands like they were tissue paper. The metal buckles snapped. He stood to his full height, and the room seemed to shrink around him. Then he grabbed the stretcher and hurled it across the room. It crashed into the triage station. Glass shattered. Metal bent. Alarms screamed. Chaos erupted. Nurses scattered. Patients ran for the exits. Our 2 security guards, both big men, former cops, moved in with batons raised. Derek caught the first guard by the throat, lifted him off the ground, and threw him into the reception desk. The man crumpled, unconscious. The second guard swung his baton. Derek caught it mid-swing, yanked it away, and snapped it in half. Then he backhanded the guard across the face. The man went down hard. Dr. Brennan stumbled backward, his face pale. Someone call the police. Lock down the ER. But Derek wasn't interested in Brennan. His drug-addled gaze swept the room and locked onto something that made my blood freeze. A child. A 6-year-old boy with a broken arm, sitting in a wheelchair near the pediatric area, too scared to move. His mother stood frozen beside him, clutching her purse. Derek started walking toward them. Slow. Deliberate. Like a predator stalking prey. No, the mother whispered. Please, no. Derek picked up a metal 4-stand and raised it like a club. And that's when I moved. I didn't think. Didn't plan. My body acted on instincts I'd spent 3 years trying to bury. I crossed the 20 feet between us in 4 silent steps. Derek never saw me coming. I struck once. A precise blow to the base of his skull, the medulla oblongata, where the spinal cord meets the brain. In military close-quarters combat, we called it a switch-off strike. Illegal in every combat sport. Potentially lethal if delivered with full force. I didn't use full force. I used exactly enough. Derek's eyes rolled back. His knees buckled. The 4-stand clattered to the floor. Then all 2.10 meters and 160 kilograms of him collapsed like a demolished building. The impact shook the floor. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. Everyone stared at me. The weak nurse. The novice, who couldn't handle pressure. Standing over the unconscious giant, breathing calmly, like I'd just changed a bedpan. "Someone call security," I said quietly. My voice sounded different. Colder. "And bring restraints. He'll wake up in 3 minutes." Dr. Brennan emerged from behind the desk, his face a mask of shock. "What? How did you?" I didn't answer. I knelt beside Derek, checked his pulse, examined his pupils. "He's stable. No permanent damage. But you need to sedate him before he regains consciousness." I stood and walked toward the staff locker room, leaving them all frozen in place. Behind me, I heard whispers starting. Questions. But I didn't stop. Because if I stopped, they'd see my hands shaking. They'd see the cracks forming in the mask I'd worn for 3 months. They'd see Phantom. And I couldn't let that happen. I locked myself in the women's locker room and gripped the edge of the sink. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from adrenaline crashing through my system like a freight train. I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't Amara Cole, timid nurse. It was someone else. Someone I'd buried in 2020. Phantom. The flashback hit without warning. Kandahar, Afghanistan. 2018. A dark room in a compound. 3 insurgents between me and the hostage. No weapon. No backup. The largest man, easily 2 meters tall, armed with a knife, charged me. I moved. 1 strike. He dropped. I took his knife and neutralized the other 2 in silence. 45 seconds. 3 targets. 0 noise. Phantom exfil in 2 minutes, command crackled in my earpiece. Copy, I whispered. I blinked. I was back in the locker room. Detroit. 2024. Not Afghanistan. Not Phantom. Just Amara. I splashed cold water on my face and forced my breathing to slow. When I finally emerged, the ER had returned to controlled chaos. Derek had been sedated and moved to a secure room. The injured security guards were being treated. Dr. Brennan was giving statements to 2 Detroit PD officers. But something felt wrong. 2 men in dark suits stood near the reception desk. They weren't cops. They had that look, the one I recognized instantly. Operators. Coiled posture. Eyes constantly scanning. Hands near concealed weapons. The taller one, a white man in his 50s with gray hair and a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, spotted me and walked over. "You're the nurse who dropped Derek Vaughan?" His voice was gravelly, authoritative. I kept my eyes down. I just did what I had to do. He studied me for a long moment. "What's your name?" "Amara Cole." "Cole." He frowned slightly. "Where'd you learn to strike like that?" My heart stopped. "I don't know what. Cut the crap, nurse." He leaned in slightly. That was a textbook medulla strike. Military close-quarters combat. I've only seen that technique used by special operations personnel. So I'll ask again. Where did you serve? I clenched my jaw. I'm just a nurse. He held my gaze, then slowly nodded. Right. Just a nurse who happens to know how to drop a 200-kilo man with 1 hit. He pulled out a business card, blank except for a phone number, and pressed it into my hand. If you remember where you served, call me. We could use someone like you. He walked away. I stared at the card, then crumpled it and shoved it into my scrub pocket. I didn't want to be found. I didn't want to be Phantom again. But deep down, I knew the truth. You can't bury the past. It always comes back. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. Nurses whispered when I walked by. Dr. Brennan avoided eye contact. Even the patients seemed to look at me differently. At 6:47 a.m., as I was clocking out, Janet cornered me in the hallway. Amara, what you did tonight. That was incredible. Where did you learn? I got lucky, I interrupted. He was off balance. Wrong place, wrong time. That wasn't luck. That was training. I met her eyes. I'm just a nurse, Janet. I walked away before she could ask more questions. In the parking garage, I sat in my Toyota and stared at the steering wheel. My hands were steady now. Too steady. That was the problem. When I'd struck Derek, there had been no hesitation. No fear. Just muscle memory. 3 years of therapy. 3 years of trying to be normal. Gone in one moment. I pulled out my phone and stared at the crumpled business card. Then I threw it in the trash. I drove home to my studio apartment in Midtown Detroit. Showered. Made coffee. Tried to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Kandahar, Mosul, Raqqa. Faces of men I'd killed. Faces of teammates I'd lost. At 2:15 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. Ms. Cole, this is Detective Marcus Rivera, Detroit PD. I need you to come down to the station. We have some questions about the incident at County General. My stomach dropped. Am I in trouble? No, ma'am. We just need your statement. Derek Vaughn is awake, and he's making threats. We want to make sure you're safe. I'll be there in an hour. I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed. Derek was awake. And making threats. This wasn't over. The Detroit Police Department's 5th Precinct smelled like burnt coffee and old paperwork. Detective Rivera was 42, Latino, with tired eyes that had seen too much. He led me to an interview room and gestured to a chair. Ms. Cole, thank you for coming in. I'll keep this brief. He opened a folder. Derek Vaughn has an extensive criminal record. Assault. Drug trafficking. He's also a high-ranking member of a gang called the Iron Fists. You've heard of them. I shook my head. They control most of the drug trade in East Detroit. Violent. Ruthless. And very loyal to each other. He paused. Derek is claiming you assaulted him without provocation. He's threatening to press charges. And Rivera hesitated. His associates are asking questions about you. We've intercepted chatter suggesting they might retaliate. My blood ran cold. Retaliate how? We don't know. But the Iron Fists don't forgive humiliation. A woman, especially a small woman, dropping their enforcer with one hit? That's a problem for them. It makes them look weak. He leaned forward. Ms. Cole, I need to ask. Where did you learn to fight like that? I'd been expecting this question. I'd prepared an answer. My father was a Marine. He taught me self-defense growing up. It wasn't entirely a lie. My father had been a Marine. But he died when I was 12. Everything I knew, I'd learned in classified training facilities. Rivera studied me. Self-defense doesn't usually include medulla strikes. I got lucky. That's what everyone keeps saying. But I've been a cop for 20 years, Ms. Cole. I know the difference between luck and training. He closed the folder. I'm not going to push. But if you're in danger, I need to know. Can you protect yourself? I met his eyes. Yes. Good. Because I can't provide protection. We're understaffed as it is. But I can give you this. He slid a piece of paper across the table. That's the direct line to our gang task force. If you see anything suspicious, anyone following you, strange cars, anything, you call immediately. Understood. Understood. I left the precinct and drove back to my apartment. But I didn't go inside. Instead, I sat in my car and watched the street. Old habits. Threat assessment. Exit routes. Potential ambush points. I was doing it again. Thinking like phantom. At 6:30 p.m., I returned to County General for my night shift. The moment I walked through the ER doors, I felt it. Eyes on me. Whispers. Dr. Brennan called me into his office. Cole, sit down. I sat. He steepled his fingers. What happened last night was extraordinary. You saved lives. But it's also raised questions. Several staff members are uncomfortable. They're asking who you really are. I'm a nurse. Are you? He leaned back. I made some calls today. Your resume says you graduated from Wayne State's nursing program in 2021. But when I contacted Wayne State, they had no record of an Amara Cole in that graduating class. My heart hammered. There must be a mistake. I also called your previous employer. The clinic in Ann Arbor you listed? It closed in 2019. 2 years before you supposedly worked there. He fixed me with a hard stare. So I'll ask you directly. Who are you? I could lie. I could walk out. Or I could tell a version of the truth. I did serve, I said quietly. Army. Medical Corps. I was discharged in 2020. PTSD. I changed my name. Started over. I just wanted to be normal. It was close enough to the truth. Brennan's expression softened slightly. Why didn't you say so? Because I didn't want to be defined by it. I didn't want people looking at me differently. He nodded slowly. I understand. But Cole, or whatever your real name is, you can't hide who you are. Not after last night. I know. The hospital administration wants to give you a commendation. The local news wants to interview you. You're a hero. I'm not a hero. I just did what anyone would do. No, Brennan said firmly. You did what almost no one could do. And whether you like it or not, people are going to want answers. I stood. With respect, doctor, I'm here to work. Not to be famous. If that's a problem, I'll resign. He studied me for a long moment. No. You're a damn good nurse, and we need you. But be careful, Cole. The world doesn't let heroes stay hidden. I left his office and returned to the ER floor. The shift was busy. Stabbings, overdoses, a cardiac arrest. I lost myself in the work. At 3:17 a.m., the ambulance bay doors opened. But no ambulance came through. Instead, 5 men walked in. They wore street clothes. Hoodies. Baggy jeans. But I saw the bulges under their jackets. Guns. And I recognized the tattoos on their hands. Iron fists. They spread out, blocking the exits. The leader, a muscular black man in his 30s with a scar across his cheek, walked straight to the reception desk. Where's the nurse who put Derek in the hospital? His voice was calm. Too calm. The receptionist, a young woman named Kelly, stammered. I don't. He pulled out a pistol and placed it on the desk. I'll ask one more time. Kelly's hands shook as she pointed toward the trauma bays. She's back there. The leader smiled. Thank you. He gestured to his men. They started moving through the ER. Patients screamed. Staff scattered. I was in trauma bay 2, suturing a laceration on a teenager's arm, when I heard the commotion. I looked up and saw them through the glass. 5 armed men. Hunting for me. I could run. Slip out the back. Disappear. That's what the old Amara would do. But the old Amara was gone. I set down the suture kit and walked into the hallway. The leader saw me immediately. "You Amara Cole?" I didn't answer. He walked closer. "You're smaller than I expected. Derek said you dropped him with one hit." I didn't believe it. "But looking at you now." He laughed. "I still don't believe it. You need to leave," I said quietly. "This is a hospital. And you need to learn respect. You humiliated my brother. Made the Iron Fists look weak. That's a problem." He raised the pistol. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to come with us. Quietly. Or we start shooting patients. Your choice." Behind him, I saw Dr. Brennan and 3 nurses huddled near the supply closet. I saw Kelly at the desk, crying. I saw patients in wheelchairs, too sick to run. I had 2 choices. Go with them and die. Or fight and risk everyone else dying. But there was a third option. End this fast. I looked at the leader. "Okay. I'll come with you." He smiled. "Smart girl." I started walking toward him. He lowered the gun slightly. "Mistake." I moved. In one fluid motion, I grabbed his wrist, twisted the gun away, and drove my elbow into his solar plexus. He doubled over. I swept his legs. He hit the floor hard. 2 seconds. The other 4 men reached for their guns. I was faster. I threw the pistol at the nearest man's face. It hit him square in the nose. He went down. I closed the distance to the second man before he could draw. I struck his throat, precise, controlled. He dropped, gasping. The third man got his gun out. I grabbed his arm, redirected the barrel toward the ceiling, and drove my knee into his groin. He crumpled. The fourth man fired. The bullet missed me by inches and shattered a monitor. I rolled, came up behind him, and applied a rear naked choke. He struggled for 3 seconds, then went limp. Silence. 5 men. 12 seconds. I stood in the middle of the hallway, breathing hard, surrounded by unconscious bodies. Everyone stared at me. Dr. Brennan's mouth hung open. Kelly had stopped crying. A patient in a wheelchair whispered, "Holy shit." I picked up the leader's pistol, ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and set it on the reception desk. Then I pulled out my phone and called 911. "This is Amara Cole at County General Hospital. We have 5 armed intruders in the ER. They're unconscious and disarmed. Send police immediately." I hung up. Dr. Brennan finally found his voice. "Who the hell are you?" I looked at him. "I'm just a nurse." But we both knew that was a lie. The police arrived 6 minutes later. Detective Rivera was with them. He took one look at the scene, 5 gang members unconscious, not a scratch on me, and shook his head. "Ms. Cole, we need to talk." They took my statement. Reviewed security footage. Interviewed witnesses. By the time the sun rose, the story was clear. Self-defense. Justified. Heroic. The hospital administration called an emergency meeting. The CEO, a polished woman named Dr. Sandra Okafor, shook my hand. "Ms. Cole, on behalf of County General, I want to thank you. You saved lives tonight. We'd like to offer you a position in our security training program. Teach our staff self-defense." "I'm a nurse," I said. "Not a teacher." "You're whatever you choose to be," Dr. Okafor replied. "But you can't hide anymore. The news is already running the story. By tonight, you'll be famous." She was right. By noon, my face was on every local news channel. Mystery nurse stops armed gang. Hospital hero revealed. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters. Job offers. Interview requests. I turned it off. At 3 p.m., someone knocked on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. The man from the hospital. The one with the gray hair and scar. I opened the door. "I told you I'm not interested." He smiled slightly. I'm not here to recruit you, Ms. Cole. I'm here to warn you. About what? The Iron Fists aren't done. You embarrassed them twice. They'll come for you again. And next time, they'll send more than 5 men. Let them. He studied me. You're not afraid. No. Good. Because I did some digging. Amara Cole doesn't exist. But Amara Reeves does. Former ISA. Call sign Phantom. Discharged 2020 after the Kandahar incident. 3 tours. 17 confirmed kills. Distinguished Service Cross. My blood ran cold. How did you? I'm CIA, Ms. Reeves. It's my job to know. He handed me a folder. The Iron Fists have a contract on you. $50,000. Every gang in Detroit will be hunting you. I opened the folder. Photos. Names. Addresses. Why are you telling me this? Because you have 2 options. Run and spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Or end this. How? He smiled. Do what you do best. Be Phantom. I stared at the folder. Faces of men who wanted me dead. Addresses of Iron Fists safe houses. Weapons caches. Financial records. Everything I'd need to dismantle them. You want me to go to war, I said. I want you to survive, the CIA officer replied. And if you happen to cripple a major criminal organization in the process, well, that's just good citizenship. I'm not an operator anymore. You were never just an operator, Ms. Reeves. You were one of the best. And whether you like it or not, you're back in the game. He walked to the door, then paused. One more thing. Derek Vaughn made bail this morning. He's out. And he's looking for you. He left. I sat on my couch and opened the folder. 12 high-value targets. Safe houses across Detroit. The Iron Fist's entire command structure. I could do this. I had the skills. The training. But did I want to? For 3 years, I'd tried to be normal. To bury Phantom. To be just a nurse. But normal didn't exist for people like me. I pulled out my phone and called Detective Rivera. Detective, it's Amara Cole. I need a favor. Name it. I need you to look the other way for 48 hours. Silence. Then, what are you planning? Ending this. Another pause. I can't officially condone. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm giving you a heads up. In 2 days, the Iron Fists won't be a problem anymore. Ms. Cole, do you want them gone or not? He sighed. 48 hours. After that, I don't know you. Fair enough. I hung up and started planning. The first target was a warehouse in East Detroit. Weapons storage. 4 guards. I arrived at 11:47 p.m., dressed in black, face covered. I moved through the shadows like I'd never left the field. The first guard never saw me. Sleeper hold. Unconscious in 8 seconds. The second guard heard something and turned. I struck his knee, then his temple. Down. The third and fourth guards were together. I used a distraction, threw a rock at a metal drum. They both turned. I took them down in 4 moves. Inside the warehouse, I found crates of illegal weapons. AR-15s. Glocks. Explosives. I called it in anonymously, then moved to the next target. By dawn, I'd hit 3 locations. 12 Iron Fists members in custody. 2 safe houses burned. The gang was in chaos. But I wasn't done. At 9:23 a.m., I walked into a bar on 8 Mile Road. Iron Fists territory. The bartender, a heavy-set man with a teardrop tattoo, looked up. We're closed. I'm looking for Derek Vaughn. His eyes narrowed. Who's asking? The nurse. His hand moved toward something under the bar. I was faster. I vaulted over the bar, grabbed his wrist, and slammed his hand on the counter. A pistol clattered to the floor. Where's Derek? I don't know. Wrong answer. I applied pressure to his wrist. He screamed. Okay. He's at the chop shop on Greshit. Please. I released him and walked out. The chop shop was a garage surrounded by chain-link fence. 2 men stood guard outside. I approached openly. I'm here to see Derek. They laughed. Lady, you got a death wish? Probably. One of them reached for his gun. I disarmed him, used his own weapon to knock him out, then did the same to his partner. Inside, Derek was working on a stolen car. He looked up and saw me. His face twisted with rage. You. He grabbed a tire iron and charged. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used his momentum to throw him into a workbench. Tools scattered. He roared and came at me again. This time, I didn't hold back. I struck his knee. He stumbled. I struck his ribs. He gasped. I swept his legs. He fell. I stood over him, tire iron in hand. This ends now. You leave me alone. You leave the hospital alone. Or next time I won't stop. He spat blood. You think you've won? The fists will hunt you forever. Let them try. I dropped the tire iron and walked out. By the time the police arrived, Derek and his men were gift-wrapped for arrest. Detective Rivera called me that night. I don't know what you did, Ms. Cole. And I don't want to know. But the Iron Fists are finished. Half their leadership is in custody. The rest are running scared. Good. You should disappear for a while. Lay low. I'm done hiding, detective. I hung up and went to work. When I walked into County General that night, the ER staff stared. Dr. Brennan approached. Cole, the news is calling you a vigilante. They're saying you single-handedly took down a gang. I'm just a nurse, doctor. He smiled. No, you're not. But I'm glad you're on our side. For the first time in 3 years, I smiled back. Maybe I couldn't be normal. Maybe Phantom would always be part of me. But I could choose how to use it. To protect. To save. To be the person I wished I'd been in Kandahar. That night, a new patient arrived. Gunshot wound. Critical. I didn't hesitate. I moved with precision, confidence, skill. And when I saved his life, no one questioned where I'd learned. Because they knew. Amara Cole wasn't just a nurse. She was Phantom. And she was exactly where she needed to be. 3 weeks later, County General held a ceremony. Dr. Okafor presented me with a commendation. The mayor gave a speech. Local news cameras filmed everything. I stood on stage, uncomfortable in a dress, wishing I was anywhere else. But when I looked out at the crowd, I saw faces I recognized. Patients I'd saved. Staff I'd protected. The 6-year-old boy whose life I'd saved when Derek attacked. His mother mouthed, "Thank you." And I realized something. I'd spent 3 years running from Phantom, trying to bury her, ashamed of what I'd done. But Phantom wasn't a monster. She was a protector, a warrior. And maybe, just maybe, the world needed her. After the ceremony, the CIA officer approached. Hell of a show, Ms. Reeves. I'm staying here. At the hospital. I figured. But if you ever change your mind, the offer stands. We could use someone like you. I'll keep that in mind. He handed me a new card. This one's real. My direct line. If you ever need help, or if you want back in, call me. I took the card. What's your name? Dalton. James Dalton. Thanks, Dalton. He nodded and walked away. That night, I returned to my apartment. For the first time in years, I didn't check the locks 3 times. Didn't scan for threats. Didn't sleep with a knife under my pillow. I was still Phantom. But I was also Amara. And I was finally okay with both. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw you on the news. Proud of you, Angel. Angel. My old call sign from ISA. Only a handful of people knew it. I texted back. Who is this? Someone who served with you. Kandahar. 2019. We need to talk. There's something you need to know about that mission. About why we were betrayed. My blood ran cold. Meet me. Tomorrow. Belle Isle Park. Noon. Come alone. I stared at the message. The past wasn't done with me. It was never done. But this time, I wasn't running. I texted back. I'll be there. The next day, I drove to Belle Isle Park. It was a cold December afternoon. The Detroit River churned gray and angry. I found the meeting spot, a bench overlooking the water. A man sat there. Tall. Black. Mid-40s. I recognized him immediately. Captain Reeves. He stood and smiled. It's just Marcus now. I'm retired. Marcus Reeves. My former commanding officer. The man who'd led our unit in Kandahar. The man who'd held me while I cried after the ambush. I thought you were dead, I whispered. They told me everyone died. They lied. He gestured to the bench. Sit. We need to talk. I sat. What happened in Kandahar? We were set up. Someone in our own command sold us out. 4 operators died. You and I survived. But they couldn't let the truth come out. So they buried it. Discharged us. Made us disappear. Who? I don't know yet. But I'm close. And I need your help. I looked at him. I'm done, Marcus. I'm out. Are you? Because from what I saw on the news, you're very much in. That was different. I was protecting people. And that's exactly what I'm asking you to do. The person who betrayed us is still out there. Still in command. Still sending operators into ambushes. More people will die unless we stop them. I closed my eyes. I just want a normal life. There's no such thing as normal for people like us, Amara. You know that. He was right. I tried for 3 years. And it hadn't worked. What do you need? He smiled. I need Phantom. I looked out at the river. The water was dark, cold, unforgiving, like the path ahead. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Okay, I said. Let's finish this. Marcus handed me a folder. Our first target is in Washington, D.C. high-level Pentagon official. I have evidence linking him to the Kandahar betrayal. But he's protected. Untouchable. Unless someone gets close enough to expose him. Exactly. I opened the folder. Photos. Documents. A web of corruption and betrayal. When do we leave? Tomorrow. I stood. I need to tie up some loose ends first. That night, I went to County General one last time. I found Dr. Brennan in his office. I'm resigning, Doctor. He looked up, surprised. Why? I have unfinished business. Something I need to take care of. He studied me. Will you come back? I don't know. He stood and shook my hand. You're the best nurse I've ever worked with, Cole. And the most dangerous. Whatever you're doing, be careful. I will. I walked through the ER one last time. Said goodbye to Janet. To Kelly. To the staff who'd become my family. Then I drove home, packed a bag, and prepared for war. Because I wasn't just a nurse. I was Phantom. And the mission wasn't over. It was just beginning. As I loaded my gear into the car, my phone buzzed. A text from Dalton. Heard you're going after the Kandahar conspirators. Need backup. I smiled and texted back. Always. 3 years ago, I tried to bury Phantom. To be normal. To forget. But some things can't be buried. Some skills can't be forgotten. And some missions never end. My name is Amara Cole. I'm 27 years old. I'm a nurse, a protector, a warrior, and I'm done hiding. The world thought I was weak, invisible, just a novice nurse. But when a 2.10-meter giant attacked my hospital, I dropped him with one strike. And when a gang came for revenge, I dismantled them in 48 hours. Because I'm not just a nurse. I'm Phantom. And I'm just getting started.